Encouragement is so important in our lives, isn't it? And yet, we know how hard it is to come by encouragement sometimes. I remember when we started out in the park here a few weeks ago, started this series, Verses, from the book of Proverbs. I asked you for some American proverbs, and one that came up was, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And I think my response was, that is to be the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I don't know who thought of that, but apparently they lived in a bubble or something. Because we know that words have power to hurt us far beyond physical beatings that we take. And words can leave scars that will last forever in our lives, can't they? Far longer than the damage done by any physical problem that we have. I was talking to a young person not long ago, and they were telling me, well, it doesn't really matter what you say or how you talk, because words have really no meaning in and of themselves. Words have no power in and of themselves. And I said, you need to read the proverb that we have as kind of an anchor verse at the top of the outline. Look at it right now. Proverbs 18:21. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. Do words have power? According to God, they do. You read the book of James, you find out all about the tongue and the power of words, don't you? But when you go through Proverbs, oh my gosh, there is so much spoken there about the way we speak. And that's what we want to talk about today. I want you to try this. And if it makes you uncomfortable, I apologize, but I still want you to try it. I want you to think back to a time in your childhood, and some of you won't have to think nearly as far back as some of the rest of us, but I want you to think back to a time where somebody said something that was discouraging or hurtful or just was hurtful to you. And if you can, share that with the person next to you. I'm not looking for some deep, dark secret, but just something. Is there something that was said? Go ahead and share that with somebody next to you. Hi there. How are you guys? "30 seconds more." Okay, let me ask you a question. How many of you could think of something? Look around. How many of you could think of something? A lot of us, right? And how many of you thought of it pretty quickly? And for how many of you has that been at least 20 years since it happened? Look at that. Look how we hold on to the power of words that hurt. I remember as a kid, my mom saying, "Mike, you are as clumsy as an ox." Now, I may have been. I don't really know. But I remember growing up thinking, feeling bad that I was clumsy as an ox, and feeling bad for an ox because I didn't know how clumsy they really were. I have no idea. I felt bad for the poor ox. But those things just kind of stay with us. And so today, I want us to talk about life and death issues, since life and death are in the power of the tongue. I want us to talk about those issues surrounding speech. And our opponents today are unique. You know, we've been using the fighting, the boxing kind of contender thing in verses. But today we want to shift from boxing to wrestling. Now, I need true confession. How many of you have ever watched wrestling? All right. How many of you kind of like watching wrestling? All right. There will be a support group meeting shortly after this for those at Pate's house. By the way, I'm not talking UFC. I'm talking WWE, okay? Just let's get this clear. I'm talking about real wrestling, okay? Now, you know you have wrestlers, but you also have what are called tag teams. How many of you know what tag teams are? Right? When you come out, usually two, can be more, but usually two that come out together, and one person's fighting for those of you who don't know, let me educate you. One of them's fighting in the ring, and your partner is standing in the corner outside the ring, waiting to be tagged, hence tag team, so he can take the place of the guy inside the ring. And sometimes you can have multiple people, 2, 3, 4, 5 people on a team, but usually it's 2. And usually the tag team members, the guys on a team, are very much alike. They complement each other. They usually dress very much alike. They're very well connected with each other. And especially the bad guys are just full of trash talk. They just know how to say the worst things possible because obviously they're doing this for your sake and for my sake in the whole entertainment business. And so we're going to look at tag teams today when we talk about the contenders in this matter of speech. There are going to be 3 sets of teams, both for the bad guys and for the good guys, for the speech of death and for the speech of life. So we're going to look at the teams, the death squad first, if you will, okay? So if you got your outline, go through that. We've got a lot of verses to look at today, and probably more than any other week in this study. But the trash-talking teams, the death squad, they bring death through 3 teams. First is team gossip and slander. Okay, the team of gossip and slander. This is a powerful duo because their words rip through a group and do a tornado's worth of damage sometimes before you even see them coming. First of all, let's talk about gossip for just a second. Let me give you the definition I heard years ago, and I really like it. That gossip is sharing private information with someone who's not part of the problem or the solution. Let me say that again. Gossip is sharing private information with somebody who's not part of the problem or the solution. Does that make sense? We know how gossip works because all of us are a little bit vulnerable to wanting to hear gossip as well as sometimes spreading gossip. Just a little bit of that information is so juicy, so personal, and so inviting that when somebody comes to share gossip with you, it's almost like you're especially privileged to get in on the inside of something. And that's what the person who gossips is banking on. Because who doesn't want to know a good story? Who doesn't want to have the inside scoop on something? And yet there's an impact that surrounds gossip. The impact of gossip, among other things, is this. First of all, in Proverbs 11:13, we'll just go through some of these verses. A gossip goes around revealing a secret. A trustworthy person keeps a confidence. Gossips share secrets, kind of like the Geico commercial. That's what they do. Okay, that's just what they do. They share secrets. And it works because we're partial to knowing what other people don't know. We're partial to being able to be privy to something other people don't know about. So when somebody comes to you and says something like this, hey, can I share something with you? But you have to promise not to tell anybody. That's a cue that is probably gossip. Because if it was really a secret, why would they be telling you? When someone comes to you and says, yeah, just make sure this is going no farther. Make sure it doesn't get as far as you. Stop it right then. In 18:8, the words say, a gossip's words are like choice food that goes down to one's innermost being. Man, I love this word picture. This gossip is not terrible. Gossip is inviting. Gossip is juicy. Gossip, man, it tastes so good. And that's what we have to be aware of. So that we don't get sucked into that kind of activity. Now sometimes, and let me just tell you this as kind of a warning, we've talked about this before, sometimes when people share gossip, they make it spiritual gossip. What they say is, Brother Jason, we need to be praying for Brother Rob because he has a problem. Can I share this prayer request with you? And really, it's none of Jason's business. It's probably none of my business, but it's just something I found out, and I just have to tell somebody because it makes me feel good to share it. And if he's not careful, it's going to make him feel good to receive it. If you're not a part of the problem or the solution, then you really don't have any need to hear even about that prayer request. And in 16:28, Solomon writes, a contrary man spreads conflict, a gossip separates close friends. That's what I want you to catch. The impact of gossip is this. It destroys relationships. A gossip can divide a church. Gossip can split a youth group. Gossip can destroy best friends. Because death is in the power of the tongue. And so real quickly, a couple of verses that speak about the remedy for gossip, or at least a remedy for gossip. In 26:20, we read, without wood, fire goes out. Without a gossip, conflict dies down. So if we're having a lot of conflict, let's look around and see if there's somebody that's not fanning the flame a little bit and providing some fuel for it. Because if you don't have people gossiping, your level of conflict is going to be much, much lower. And in 2019, we read, the one who reveals secret is a constant gossip. Avoid someone with a big mouth. It doesn't get much clearer than that, does it? Stay away from big mouths. So somebody who's shooting their mouth off all the time, somebody who's always revealing secrets, it doesn't take long to figure out who those people are. Stay away from them. Don't partner up with them. Now, the tag team member of gossip is like its cousin. Very, very close. It's slander. A couple of definitions to slander is to maliciously defame another person with your speech. To maliciously defame somebody else with your speech. That's kind of a legal definition, but I heard a definition a long time ago that was really stuck with me, and that was this: telling the truth about somebody with the intention of hurting them. So telling the truth about something, it might be true what you're saying, but your intent is to damage them. The difference between gossip and slander is your motivation. Gossips may or may not have a malicious motivation, but slanderers do. When you get mad at somebody, and you don't go to that person, but you go to that person over there, and you talk to that person about this person, and you tell them all the bad things this person has done because you want them to know how horrible this person is, you are slandering that person because you are trying to destroy that person's reputation. You're trying to hurt their standing in the eyes of other people. Does that make sense? These are very, very serious problems that we have as people and in the church. In 10:18 we read, the one who conceals hatred has lying lips. Whoever spreads slander is a fool. And the thing that stands out to me about that verse is that hatred and foolishness are both connected with slander. That there is a connection between slander and hatred. So beware when you are mad at somebody, you can either turn it inward, you can turn it outward, you can turn it upward. Wendy, it sounded like you turned yours inward for a while and just held on to it, right? But you could have turned it outward. You could have gone to somebody and said, you know that no good so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, you turned it upward, and that's where it needed to go. Gossips and slanderers must be corrected or removed because their words are poison in a group. So that's the first tag team on the death squad. Slander, gossip. But the team that comes right behind them is just as dangerous, and that's flattery and lying. Flattery and lying. This is about your speech now. Let's talk about flattery first, because sometimes I think it's hard for us to get a handle on flattery. Flattery is excessive and insincere praise, spoken in the hopes of gaining favor with somebody. So excessive praise, lavishing praise, insincere praise, because you want something from somebody else. And again, the concept of motive is really important. How do you know the difference between just wanting to affirm somebody and then flattering them? About encouraging them to make them feel good and being a flatterer. If you ever worry about that, you know what the difference is? Your motive. Because the person who wants to affirm seeks to benefit you. When a person speaks flattery, they seek to benefit themselves. That makes sense, right? Flattery comes from a French word, means to stroke or caress with the flat of the hand, like stroking your ego. Just think of it that way. Somebody said, actually, you're being patted on the back so that somebody can find the soft spot to stick the knife. I like that. That works for me. So let's talk for a moment about the deceit of flattery. The deceit of flattery. In Proverbs 7:21, we read about the adulteress. And one of the descriptions in that verse says, she seduces him with her persistent pleading. She lures him with her flattering talk. Now, you can read Proverbs 7 that talks about the adulteress and the simple man who passes by, who isn't smart enough, wise enough to figure out what's going on and becomes her victim. And that's good at a literal sense. Everybody needs to read that. Every guy needs to read that and understand it. But you can also take that and you can talk about that seductive woman being a personification of sin, because it works for that too. What does sin do? Sin seeks to flatter you. The devil wants to flatter you. Sin wants to make you think everything is good and that you're just fine. Anything to lure you in. Flattering deals with your ego and with your pride. Several years ago, I took a team to Haiti for a missions trip. And it was a unique place, different than anywhere else I've ever been. We were staying in a mission compound with high walls and glass on top, all that old school kind of stuff. And every day we'd go out because we'd be doing ministry and work in the town. And there would be people, kids and adults both, but a lot of kids, hanging outside the gate. And when you came outside as a foreigner, and it wasn't really hard to tell we were foreigners, these kids would latch onto you. And they became your best friend for the week. And so sure enough, the first day I go outside, this little boy, about 10, 11, 12 years old, he meets me, he grabs my hand, he introduces himself. He says, just everything is very affirming to me. And it's very flattering, as you realize later on. But every time I walk out, he's waiting there for me. Pretty soon when I walk out, I'm looking for him. And we developed this friendship. Anything I want, he can go get it for me. Want something from the store, he can go find it. Want to go to a place, he can take me there. He is there for me. Boy, don't I feel special. Until the last day. The last day, and they all know when your last day is there. I don't know how they know it, but they know it. I come out, I meet my friend, he takes me to his house to show me just how bad his house is and how this family needs money to fix their house. And then he says, can I have your watch? Can I have your ring? Can I have your belt? I'm looking to see if there was something not nailed down on me that might be missing by the time I got back. But I realized by the time I got back to the compound that whole 2 weeks was a charade. That was his way he buttered me up for 2 weeks so he could drop the hammer before I left. And hopefully I would have something for him. And as soon as our team left and another team came in, he'd start that thing all over again. That's what flattery does. It lures you in so it gets what it wants. A person who flatters you is for their benefit. In 26:28, Proverbs says, a lying tongue hates those it crushes. A flattering mouth causes ruin. Don't fall for it. Flattery will ruin you. You might feel important. You might feel big. You might feel special. It will ruin you. But the destruction of the lie is something that's probably even more important for us in daily life. Because that same verse, 26:28, says again, a lying tongue hates those it crushes. Liars are haters, and they're abusers. And I know we have a habit of ranking our lies from like little ones to big ones, right? From inconsequential ones to serious ones. From little white lies to big, I don't know what color lies. My question is, who determined the color of lies? And who determined the size of lies? Because they seem small, because they don't seem so significant. Is that important to God? Let me tell you something. In God's eyes, white lies matter. Sorry, I just had to say it. White lies matter because God is colorblind when it comes to lies. Lies are lies are lies. And little ones, it's okay, it'll be okay. Little lies can get you in just as much trouble as big lies. Because you know what happens once you spread a little lie or once you say a little lie? What happens? What'd you say? Snowballs. it's easier to lie the second time once you've lied the first time. And then the third time's a lot easier than the second time. And then pretty soon you've got to lie to cover the lies you told before. And then you can't remember what you lied about for sure, and you start getting in trouble. Lies are so important in the eyes of God that they made his top 10 list. Is that right? In Exodus chapter 20. You shall not lie. It's one of God's top 10. In fact, he says, the father of lies is who? The devil. And why is he called the father of lies? Why is he called the father of lies? Well, because he lies, but why is he called the father of lies? Well, he is evil. He was what? He was born a liar? Well, no, not exactly. He was the first liar. In the Garden of Eden, he looked at Eve and he says, you won't die. Come on. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Get real. He was the first liar. So when we lie, we align ourselves with the father of lies. So important to God that in Proverbs chapter 6, he says, 6 things the Lord hates, 7 are an abomination to him. And in verse 17, he says, an arrogant eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood. And then 2 verses later, he says, a lying witness who gives false testimony, and a man who stirs up trouble among his brothers. Out of the 7 things that are an abomination to God, 2 of them are lies. Don't lie. Stop lying. Be honest. And we'll talk about that. But the third team, this is the one that really gets it going. Arguing and anger. This hits right where a lot of us live. When this tag team comes in, they are like twin brothers. Where you find one, you typically find the other. Now let me ask you, be honest, how many of you guys like a good argument? How many of you like to argue? And I don't mean like bad argument. I mean a good, okay. Some of us like to do that. The problem is that most of the time, we don't know how to argue in a positive way, in a constructive way. Feelings get hurt. Things are said that shouldn't be. We get all hurt about stuff, right? And arguments tend to divide us. Some of us don't even know how to talk without getting all heated and riled up about stuff. But there's a danger in arguing. In 26:21, we read, as charcoal for embers and wood for fire, so is a quarrelsome man for kindling strife. People who argue kindle. You know, they like fanning the flames of strife, division among us. We're called not to be quarrelsome or arguers. Paul says to Timothy in 2 Timothy 2:24, the Lord's servant cannot be quarrelsome. Instead, he's called to be gentle. 17:14 says, to start a conflict is to release a flood. Stop the dispute before it breaks out. The best way to handle an argument is don't let it get off the ground. Look, it takes 2 people to argue, right? You don't have to be one of those 2. Because starting conflict becomes like a flood. And once a flood gets out, can you stop it? No, it has to run its course. You have to stop it before it gets started. But there's poison in anger. Let me talk to you about the poison of the angry in just a moment. Because we have issues with anger because it's bound up in all of us, right? How many of you have ever been mad? Okay, most of you. That's pretty normal. That's good. Anger is part of our emotional makeup. God made us with that. Is anger good or bad or ugly? It's neutral. Anger just is. It's an emotion. It's a reaction that we have when things go wrong sometimes. And we have people that can testify to that. So we are responsible to stay on top of our anger. Because everyone is prone. How many of you feel like inside you get angry pretty easy? Any of you? Okay, that's fair. Okay. So you guys especially know that you gotta keep a watch on that. Some of us have real slow boiling points. And some of us heat up, bam, just like that. We're 0 to 100 in 4 seconds. There we are. But some of us simmer a lot longer, although when we get to the top, we're still there. So we have to keep on top of that. 29:22 tells us an angry man stirs up conflict. See what happens when you get angry? You become an aggressor. You become an initiator. You stir up conflict. You find trouble. You make trouble. A hot-tempered man increases rebellion. Part of anger's problem is that now listen to this, because there's a progression here. If you don't handle your anger in a godly way and take care of it, it not only destroys others, but it's going to eat you up also. Because unresolved anger is going to lead to hurt. And if you don't take care of your hurt, it's going to lead to grudges. And grudges, when they don't get solved, lead to bitterness. And then you become bitter, not only at that other person, but at God. Because ultimately, God's the one who let all this happen. And you don't even have to recognize it or acknowledge it. That's just what happens. So we need to stop that before it ever gets going. In chapter 22, we read these words, 24 and 25. Don't make friends with an angry man, and don't be a companion of a hot-tempered man, or you will learn his ways and entangle yourself in a snare. Like Paul said in 1 Corinthians 15:33, don't kid yourself. Bad company corrupts good morals. You hang out with people who are hot-tempered, guess what's going to happen to you? That's going to rub off on you. Have you ever felt that? You ever sensed that within yourself? You hang out with people who are angry people, and it's easy to become angry inside your own spirit. And so there's a cure for that in Ephesians 4:26. It says, be angry. Okay, phew, that feels better, right? Go ahead, be angry, but don't sin. Good luck with that. I mean, you can do it, but it's hard. He says, don't let the sun go down on your anger. And the next verse says, and do not give the devil a foothold. Satan is looking for just a little toehold in our lives, a little beachhead, a little opportunity to grab on. And whenever we let the sun go down on our anger, which means, look, don't go to bed mad. Couples, don't go to bed mad. Work out your stuff. Or at least resolve some stuff so you can go to bed not mad. But I think more than that, it just says, take care of your anger issues. Don't let them simmer. Don't let them sit on the back burner and keep heating up day after day after day after day. Solve your anger issues. You either need to overlook and forgive or confront and forgive. But you need to do something with it. Don't just walk around being angry. Anger is normal. Did Jesus get angry? Yeah. Jesus took it to some people. I got news for us. We're trying to be like Jesus, but most of the time when we get angry, it's not like Jesus' anger. Okay? I always hear people say, well, it's okay to be angry. Jesus got angry. But it's what you get angry about that matters. Most of the time when we get mad, it's because somebody violates our rights. Right? We get mad because somebody did us wrong. Somebody stepped on us. Somebody took away what we should have had. We deserve something and we didn't get it, so we get mad about it. That's not why Jesus got mad. So if you can be mad for righteousness' sake, be mad. You should be a little madder than you probably are at the injustice and the unrighteousness that's going on around you right now. We don't get mad about those things. We do get mad when someone cuts me off in traffic, though I get mad. When someone snakes the parking space that I thought had my name on it, I get mad. Because, see, that's a personal violation. Don't get mad about that stuff. Be bigger than that. Be like Christ. Listen, these three teams are sneaky, they're clever, they're underhanded, and they cheat. That's what all bad tag teams do. They all cheat, right? You all know that when you watch wrestling. The bad guys always cheat. They always know where the chair is hidden. They're going to smack you with it. Okay? And so we have to be on our guard. Because we have to get these trash-talking, death squad kinds of attitudes out of our lives every single day. Real quickly, let's look at the life squad. 3 teams here. The first one is wisdom and honesty. Now we said Forrest Gump was right. Stupid is as stupid does. So the corollary is probably correct too. Wisdom is as wisdom does. Okay? If you want to know someone who's wise, look at how they live their lives. That will show you whether they're wise or not. Because wisdom is not just about knowing stuff. It's being able to take what you know and use it appropriately. There's value in wise counsel. How many of you have ever received wise counsel from somebody and are so glad that you did? Look at that. Look at all the hands that are up. Keep your hands up. Look at all the hands that are up here. You see how valuable every one of us has received wise counsel at some time in our lives. How many of you have given counsel that has turned out to be wise? And you're thankful for that. So I'm asking the positive right now. Okay. All right. That is so important. 15 verses 7 and 23 say, the lips of the wise broadcast knowledge, but not so the heart of fools. A man takes joy in giving an answer, and a timely word, how good that is. Now, I want to focus just on this last part. A timely word, how good that is. Do your lips broadcast good stuff? Timely stuff? Do you speak what is beneficial for the growth and the health and the positive uplifting of people around you? Are people blessed and strengthened by your words? Do your words count for something? And let me give you an extension. Since the internet was not around when Solomon wrote, does your Facebook page, do your blogs, does your posting reflect a wisdom of speech? Do the things that you say via your fingers, are those timely things? Are those beneficial? Do those bless people in their walk with Jesus every day? We want to make sure that the words that we speak, the words that we write, the things that we share, are those things that build people up, not tear people down. There's a benefit also of reproof, and I want this to go along with it, because it's really hard to reprove somebody. Do you know what reproving is? To tell somebody when something's wrong. Okay, how many of you like to be told when you're wrong? Yeah, okay, good. Good, one person. There's one masochist in the back. You can all line up. He'll take whatever you got. We don't like reproof. How many of you like to share with somebody when they're wrong? We don't really like that either, most of us. Yeah, the same guy that likes to take it loves to receive it. Yeah, that works. That's fair. But in 24:26, we read, he who gives an honest answer gives a kiss on the lips. Okay, but that would be a pleasant thing, right? So honesty is like a kiss on the lips. So many times we see people doing stuff and they need to be told. We need to share with them. But we need to share truth in love. A lot of people find it easy to share truth, but not necessarily in love. And all that means is you got a big hammer and you're ready to pound somebody when they get out of line. A lot of people like to love, but they don't really like to share truth. So they're just like a big gooey tub of Jell-O. Like there's not much substance here. Do whatever you want. Because they hesitate to speak truth even when they see you doing something wrong. Honesty means that we speak out. In 27:5 we read, better an open reprimand than concealed love. The wounds of a friend are trustworthy. The kisses of an enemy are excessive. The wounds of a friend are trustworthy. So if somebody hurts you by sharing truth with you, you've got to know they have your best interest in heart. Somebody said once, I know some of you guys know the saying, a friend is somebody who stabs you in the front. Right? They're face to face with you. I don't mean they hurt you. They're not trying to hurt you. But they don't go behind your back. If they have something to say to you, they say it to your face. That's what friends do. And right along with wisdom and honesty is the team, and this is the one I like to talk about, of encouragement and peace. Encouragement and peace. This is what we need so much. Maybe you've heard it, that it takes 10 to 12 words of encouragement in your life to offset one or two negative things that have been told to you. Look how true that was. How many of you came up with a negative thing that quickly from your childhood? You have carried it with you all these years because somebody said something that was not encouraging to you. And if I'd asked you to think of something encouraging, I can bet you that some of you would have had a harder time coming up with an answer that quickly. We remember those hurts. They're like daggers that never get pulled out. And even if they are pulled out, they leave a wound that is so slow to heal. I've read studies that say that it only takes 5 or 6 people and their words for a pastor to leave a church. Out of hundreds or thousands that can be there, 5 people can determine a pastor's future just by the way they speak. We're so thin-skinned, we need to kind of man up a little bit probably, but words have that kind of power. And we need to be aware of that. We have a need to be encouraged. Write that in there, our need to be encouraged. In 12:25, anxiety in a man's heart weighs it down. A good word cheers it up. Are you a good word person? If people were to talk about you and say, this is what I like about Tony, this is what I like about David, this is what I like about Aaron, would they say, I like that person because they've always got a good word? Because they're always sharing something positive. Because they're always so uplifting. Is that what would be said about you? You know why I tell you, I say it over and over again. You need to be here. We need to be here, not just for what we get out of a service, but for what we give. Because when you come here, you have the opportunity to encourage somebody who may be really down in the dumps. If we're doing our job right as Christians, we should be coming in here just tired and a little bit beat up from the world. We've been giving it out. We've been at warfare, and we need to come back in, get charged up again, encourage each other, check in with each other, touch base, and then head on back out to do it all over again. So when you come here, understand the value of being here is just not for what you receive, but for what you offer to those around you who are in need. And I guarantee you, if you give like that, you will walk away encouraged in your own heart and life. God will meet your need. Acts 4:36, this is what we need always. The early church, Luke writes, Joseph, who was a Levite and a Cypriot by birth, the one the apostles called Barnabas, which is translated the son of what? The son of encouragement. That's what I want my name to be, Barnabas. I want to be the son of encouragement. When you read about the life of Barnabas, and you see that's exactly what he did. And here's the thing, that people who encourage really do their best when they're one-on-one or with a small group. And that means that we need a lot of Barnabai around us, okay? Because one Barnabas isn't enough for even this many people. We have to have lots of Barnabas everywhere so that they can share what they have. So you're an encourager. Encourage other people. Be that son or daughter of an encouragement. And along with the encouragement, we understand that peaceful words, the words that we speak, have great power in our lives. Proverbs 15:1 says, a gentle answer turns away anger. A harsh word stirs up wrath. Gentle answers turn away anger. You want to stop somebody who's mad? Don't play that game. Just be gentle with them. It turns away anger. Some of us are prone to be harsh. Some of us are prone to be sarcastic. Any sarcastic people in the house? Look at this. Oh my gosh. Not you guys. Yeah. Sarcasm. We have worked sarcasm as an art. And the sharper our sarcasm, the better we think we are. When I was in high school, there was a girl in our youth group, and we used to go at it all the time, just sharing sarcastic barbs back and forth. And the whole time, like a couple years, I thought that this girl and I were just joking. And I find out after a couple of years that she was crushed. And she had been crushed that whole time because of the things I would say to her, or maybe about her, I don't remember. But I thought it was all in good fun because I was just a sarcastic person. Then I found out that her spirit was crushed. And I repented from that sarcasm with her. And I asked her to forgive me because I was doing more damage than I ever understood in her life. And her only way to combat it was to try to be like that in return. But that was a mask. That was a guise. She was trying to hide her hurt. You begin to respond in gentleness, you can change the way a person thinks. And by the way, you can't say, well, I'm just not a very gentle person. Because last I checked, is gentleness part of the fruit of the Spirit? That means that everybody needs to develop gentleness in their lives. There's no excuse. That is part of who you are in Christ. 25:15 reminds us, a ruler can be persuaded through patience, a gentle tongue can break a bone. Think about that. That's how much power there is in gentleness in our speech and the peace that we can bring. That it can break a bone. It can change somebody in their course. And then the final member of that tag team, and we'll wrap it up, is joy and healing. And I think that joy and healing just follow these other two teams right into the ring. Because when you live in peace, joy is going to be a product of your life, right? And when you walk in peace and you share in gentleness, joy is going to be a product of the lives of people around you. In 15:13, we read, a joyful heart makes a face cheerful, a sad heart produces a broken spirit. And you can read the rest of that. Cheerful hearts have continual feasts because our words are sharing with people and changing them from the inside out. But what I really like is the thought that our words can bring healing. Now, I don't know have you ever stood over a person who's been sick or hurting or dying and prayed that they would be healed? I remember one time I was pretty new in the Philippines, and my partner Dennis McKinney and I were traveling up to the mountains, and it was way up in the mountains, tribal group of people. And we get there, and we find out that one of the deacons in the church had been very, very ill. And they were having a special prayer service, and they were so glad that we got there so that we, the missionaries, could pray for this young man. And we went in, and this guy something was really wrong. He was so thin, it looked like his belly button was touching his spine. And he was just laying there almost comatose. And you could see, they thought, oh, good, the missionaries are here. And so we prayed for him. We went to bed a little later. We're waking about 4 a.m. They said, yeah, brother so-and-so has passed away. We said, well, so much for our gift of healing, right? No one ever called on us to pray for healing like that again. But you see, your words can provide healing. Your words can do for people what they need most in their times of hurt. 15:30 says, bright eyes cheer the heart, good news strengthens the bones. I had a friend who's a youth pastor who had so much life in his eyes. And you could see it. Even if you didn't know him, you would see that. And I remember one lady, before she gave her life to Christ, she said, he's fake. He's so fake. Look at those eyes. No one can be that happy. No one can be like that. But he wasn't fake. Jesus just shone through him so much in his eyes. He was too good to be true in that. Because his eyes were so bright, they could cheer your heart. But the second part is what I really want, and we'll just kind of leave it with this. Good news strengthens the bones. Good news. What's the word that we use for good news? What word? Gospel. Wow, good news. The good news that you share, the gospel that you share, strengthens the bones, makes people strong again. You have a message. Everybody in here, you've got a message. You've got a message of hope. You have a message of life. You have a message that the whole world needs to know right now. We're still considered heading downhill. Everything we talked about last Sunday night is still going on in spades, right? We're just having so much trouble. 3 more officers shot today in Baton Rouge. More and more problems all the time. But you have good news. You have gospel, and it can heal people. Does our world need healing? Do your friends need healing? Then go and be good news to them, and they'll find the healing that they need. Hey, it all goes back to this in Luke 6:45. Jesus said, a good man produces good out of the good storeroom of his heart. The evil man produces evil out of the evil storeroom, for his mouth speaks from the overflow of the heart. If you want your words to be right, don't just try to regulate this. Regulate this. Don't just try to change this. Change this. Because the good man speaks good words out of the goodness of his heart. Whatever you say on the outside, it's only a reflection of what's on the inside. So if you speak garbage, guess what's inside? Garbage. But if you speak life-giving truth, if you speak good news, then that good news, that hope is living in you. You've got to be changed from the inside out. That's the only way this works. And our speech is that important to God that verse after verse after verse after verse throughout Proverbs speaks about its priority in our lives. Would you be people who speak life, hope, peace, and good news here among us and out there where people need to know it? But if you don't know how to do that, it's got to start right here in the heart. And it begins when you make a decision to follow Jesus above anything and everything else in your life. It may be that you've never come to know Jesus. You've never made a decision for him. You have stood on the sidelines. You have looked. You have watched. You have even participated. You've tasted a little bit, but you've never really taken Jesus for your own. You've never really sworn your allegiance to him. Would you do that tonight? What would be keeping you from doing that right now? It may be that you've given your life to Jesus, but you've just kind of wandered away, or you've gotten stuck. Maybe there's a need to change some things right now. Whatever that is, we're going to stand in just a moment. We're going to sing a song of decision. And if you need to make a decision about the direction of your life and following Jesus with all that you are and all that you have, this is the time to make it. Begin this radical heart change from the inside out, right here, right now. So Jesus will do something with you that will change you forever and change those around you as well. Pray with me. Father in heaven, thank you for the good word. Thank you for good news in our lives. And Lord, I pray that we would follow up and follow through. And Lord, I pray that if there are those today who are needing to change the direction of their heart and life so that they would speak out of the abundance of their heart, and that speech would be good because you fill their heart. They still need to make that commitment to walk with you. Would you give them the courage to make it now? For we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. We're going to stand and we're going to sing. And if you would like to know Jesus in that way, if you would like to walk with him, if you're ready to say, hey, I'm leaving my way and I'm going to walk in Jesus' way, then I'm going to ask you to walk down to where I am. The scariest few steps you'll ever take probably, but you're in the safest place you'll ever be. You make that step. You step out for Jesus because he stepped out for you. Step out for him and stand up for him now. Let's stand together. Let's sing. Share with us about